researching anything? Did you just read the script? Did you start with the lyric? Did you start with dialogue or melody or movement or backstory, or where do you begin?
I started with music, because I knew the music like the back of my hand before I was even asked to come in to read for it. So that was sort of in the back of my mind already, and re-listening to it and sort of trying to hear it from my point of view and where I would take her and how I wanted to sort of vacillate the story through the music for her. And I already knew that I didn't want to get to Defying Gravity at the beginning. So I had to figure out how to get from the very beginning of The Wizard and I, which is very, very quiet and sort of internal, and use the rest of that music to get to the last final war cry at the end of Defying Gravity. That's where I begin. And then you strip away that because you have to get to the meat of it first. I get the script, I read it, but I also started just like looking at the past. So looking at The Wizard of Oz, looking at Margaret Hamilton, because I wanted to figure out what Alphabet would look like as well, and I wanted to figure out, well, how do I marry some of the things that have already existed with what I feel should belong to now, and how do I marry the things about myself to have that Margaret Hamilton already presented. And so when I remember I actually came to the museum and there was a display about The Wizard of Oz here soon after I had gotten the role. So I was like, well, that's happening, we're going. And I went to this display, and there's a picture of Margaret Hamilton in black and white, which is quite infamous. I think most people have seen it. And she's in her full costume, and she's sort of doing that. And that's the first time I realised that she actually has talent. She has nails. So I was like, interesting. I hadn't realised, I hadn't noticed them before, which is strange for me to not have noticed. And now all of a sudden there was like, oh, this small thing has become this connection between the past and the future. And so I was like, well, that needs to go in it, and I want to find out why does she have them? Is it part of her DNA? Like, how does her hair and her nails grow? Is it something that does this green really run through her in that way? So I was like, right, that's what's going to happen. I want her to have nails, but I want it to come from the DNA of her. And then I thought, well, what do I want of myself that makes sense? Because I don't want to completely erase the girl underneath the green me. So that's where the braids came from. So you have the micro braids that she has. I wanted to continue what's on stage, which is the long sort of wavy dark hair. So that's why the colour is very dark, but it still has the texture that I wanted. I'm trying to take from these different parts of all of the things that already exist to create her. And then, yes, she's green, but the green that I'm actually wearing is literally called Cynthia's green, because the green that already exists was the wrong tone, so it was coming up almost chalky. So Frances, our head of makeup, worked with the technicians to create a green that had a luminous yellow in it, so that the green on my skin tone worked for me. There's loads of different things that